So a very good friend of mine asked me a very good question recently, and that is, do I think martial arts will be banned or regulated in some way, shape, or form? And first things first, martial arts have been regulated for a long time. And this is pretty much everywhere. And some places are a little bit more stringent than others. Like, for instance, the state of Massachusetts, I'm not allowed to just walk outside and start fighting somebody, even if it was someone who I had agreed upon doing that with before. I could get arrested for that. In addition to that, if I decided I wanted to go to a promotion to fight, an MMA or a kickboxing promotion, I couldn't just show up and do that. I have to be licensed by the state of Massachusetts in order to be able to do that. There's certain criteria I have to fit, certain rules I have to follow, certain hoops I have to jump through. Same thing with the promotion itself. Each promotion has to be licensed by the state of Massachusetts. It has to be sanctioned by the Mass State Athletic Commission. Technically speaking, if I was to go to a gym that was holding a fight night and fight on that card, I could be arrested, as well as my opponent, as well as everybody else who fought on that card and the guy who put the card together. The cops could come in and bust that up. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but it is something that on paper could occur. And this is, of course, in contrast to some places that have mutual combat, where they'll still have regulations on a bunch of different things, but part of those regulations is the allotment for two people to meet and fight it out if it comes down to it. And because of that, we have things like street beefs. Now, when it comes to banning martial arts, this is an interesting topic. And I'm not going to say yes, I'm not going to say no, I'm going to say potentially. There is a possibility. And I say that because there is a historical precedent for the banning of martial arts in many different places throughout history. And the reason why is because a tyrannical government is not going to want to see a bunch of people who are not under their direct control in the form of like a military or something like that get together to practice fighting. They're not interested in that, even if it is unarmed combat, because what if those people decide they've had enough of that tyrannical government and they rise up and try and fight it? Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, oh, but they have guns and they probably took your guns if they're a tyrannical government. So what are they going to be afraid of? And look, I'm not advising you, if you were in North Korea or something like that, to try and fight a bunch of guys with guns only using your bare fists or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. However, you would be surprised how much damage you can do to somebody when you catch them by surprise. And when you're done doing all that damage to that guy who has the gun that you caught by surprise, what's stopping you from taking that gun and causing a ruckus with it? There's a lot of things that could occur that a government would still probably be a little bit nervous about people training unarmed combat, even if they are the only ones that have guns. They're probably just nervous enough about that that they don't want to take the chance, and because of that, they might ban martial arts outright. Now, there are other aspects of training martial arts that will make it a little bit unpalatable for a tyrannical government. When you have a bunch of military-aged men getting together to practice unarmed combat, chances are they're also going to be having conversations with each other, and there's going to be an exchange of ideas. And this is something you see a lot in the jiu-jitsu world with a bunch of different things. You know, people in the jiu-jitsu world, they swear by products or moves or people that they watch and things like that, and they go into the gym and they spread the knowledge of those things, whether it's a product, whether it's a move or person, to everybody else in that gym. And before you know it, everybody in the gym has now been turned on to whatever it is that guy brought into the gym. Now, what happens when that thing that everybody's spreading around in that gym environment ends up being anti-government sentiment? Well, you're going to have guys who they're training in unarmed combat, they're becoming tougher, they're becoming more resilient, they're becoming one, they're forming cohesive bonds with each other, and they are all forming that bond partially based around a disdain for that tyrannical government that I'm talking about. And even if they decide they're not going to rise up and physically oppose the government, they may use that as kind of a home base for their peaceful revolution, if you will. This is actually something I've seen in right-wing circles as of late. They have a big gym culture going on, and it's not just about lifting weights, it's also about doing martial arts, specifically very practical martial arts. And the left is trying its best to catch up, but they're having a hard time because they spent however many decades now pandering to complete degenerates who are lazy and have wishful thinking type things going on, and it's just not working out for them. Martial arts makes you very comfortable with a bunch of different kinds of confrontation, whether it's verbal or physical, and it makes you comfortable with verbal confrontation because you know that if it was to turn physical, you could protect yourself. So you're not as afraid to be assertive, to stand up for yourself, to stand up for what you think is right in a certain situation and anything that goes along with that. But in addition to that, it quite obviously makes you a lot better with physical confrontation. And that is because you will be a little bit more familiar with how a physical confrontation goes. It won't be an unknown factor, so you will be a little bit more comfortable in the situation. But in addition to that, it makes you a lot more effective and a lot more efficient when it comes to actually having to hurt somebody. And it's not just physical, it's also a mental piece as well. Since I started martial arts, my propensity for violence has gone through the roof. And I'm not saying that I'm more prone to violence. I'm saying that my ability to be violent is absolutely, positively so much higher than it was before I really, really got serious with martial arts. It gives you a killer mindset, and you don't dilly dally, you don't feel nerves in the way that a lot of other people do, and there is no second guessing what you're doing in a way that could get you hurt or that could give that guy the ability to keep trying to hurt you. And that is an extremely important part of martial arts, just in the most general sense. But it's also an extremely important part that a tyrannical government might take a look at and say, no, we want docile people. We don't want people who want to stand up for themselves. We don't want people who are comfortable getting into a fist fight with the guy who comes to collect our 90% income tax. We don't want that kind of thing. That's not what we're interested in. We're banning it. We're banning it. If you get caught doing it, you're getting sentenced to however many years in prison, maybe even death. You never know. It depends on who you got in that office. Those are a few of the reasons that I could think of off the top of my head that a government might be willing to ban martial arts. And if I missed any, feel free to leave something down below, because I'm definitely interested in this topic. It was a very good question that my friend asked me, that I'm glad he asked me, because I would have never thought to talk about this if he didn't. And if you have any questions for me, hit me up on either Instagram or Twitter. That's Scott Sullivan MMA on Instagram, or Sullivan_MMA on Twitter. Now X, I guess. It's been long enough. I guess I should call it X now. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and sub. Like I said earlier, also leave a comment down below if you have anything to say. And if you want to see some exclusive content as well as early access, hit up my Patreon. It's $5 a month for all of that. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. And until next time, good luck out there.